Hi, I'm Ellen from the Chili Dog. Today I'm going to show you how to do the Turkish Cast On. I'm using it for the bottom up version of my little bird's phone pocket. But this cast on works well for toe up socks, top down hats or mittens, or any project like this one that's worked in the round, but it starts with some sort of enclosed end. The Turkish cast on is considered a double-sided cast on. It allows you to create 2 rows of stitches that are connected in the middle. The cast on can be done on regular double-pointed needles, but I generally prefer to use either flexible DPNs like the Addi FlexiFlips, or if I'm going to be using the magic loop method for my knitting, a pair of long circular needles. The bendy, flexible cords in both of these styles of needles make it a little bit easier to manipulate the first few rounds of stitches after casting on. Let's get started. As with many cast-ons, the Turkish cast-on is going to start with a slip knot. However, this slip knot is not going to count as a stitch. We're going to be removing it later in the first round of our knitting. This slip knot is just meant to hold our yarn in place as we're casting on our stitches. Our stitches get cast onto 2 parallel needle tips. Because again, we're casting on our stitches so that there's a row here, and they'll be connected in the center. The slip knot gets placed onto the bottom needle tip, and then you can tighten it up and just make sure that that yarn tail is out of the way. To cast on our stitches, all you need to do is wrap your working yarn around both needle tips counterclockwise. So I'm going to go underneath, around, counterclockwise. So that is 1 wrap. 1 wrap counts as 2 stitches because the wrap goes around the top needle once and the bottom needle once. So if I needed to cast on, say, 56 stitches, half of 56 is 28 wraps. So I would wrap it around both needles 28 times. I'm not going to do quite that many for example purposes today. So to keep casting on stitches, just wrap around both needles counterclockwise. And it's important as you're wrapping that the wraps are stacked right next to each other. You don't want your wraps to be spread out like that. Otherwise, that connection in between the 2 rows of stitches is going to be very loose and sloppy, and you'll need to figure out a way to tighten things up later. So it's best just to make sure things are secure now. So just keep wrapping counterclockwise until you have however many stitches or wraps you need for your pattern. And I'm going to stop right there for demonstration purposes. Now that all of our stitches are cast on, we can go ahead and begin knitting in the round. So first we would knit across these stitches on the top needle, then we would rotate our work and knit across the stitches on the bottom needle. And I'm going to go ahead and actually do that so you can see what happens here when we get to the slip knot. So I need to knit across the stitches on the top needle. These bottom stitches can just be held for now. So I'm going to slide my needle out so that those stitches are just hanging on the cord here and out of the way. If I were working using the magic loop method, I'd actually be knitting with this bottom needle. I would pull it around and knit. Since I'm not, I have a 3rd needle here. So my stitches go up to the needle tip and I'm going to knit across this top needle. And as with many cast-ons, this first round is going to feel just a little bit fidgety. So now I'm to the end of the top needle, and now I need to knit across the stitches on the bottom needle. But before I can do that, I need to rotate my work. So I'm going to rotate my work, slide the stitches that I'm done with down onto the cord, slide the stitches that I need to knit up to the needle tip. And then, like I mentioned earlier, this first stitch now, you can see this is our slip knot that we made. That is just there to hold everything in place as we're working. So we can slide that slip knot off of the needle. So carefully just drop it off. And you can see here it's wrapped around our working yarn. Keep it wrapped around the working yarn just to keep the cast on secure. So I'm going to just kind of pinch it and hold it there so that it stays, so that it's wrapped around this working yarn. And now I'm going to go ahead and knit across these stitches on this other needle. So we'll go ahead and knit across. And really, after this first stitch is knit, that yarn tail is going to be fine and you can just let it drop. And now I'll just continue knitting across. Round one is complete, and you can see it looks like I have 2 rows of knitting that are neatly connected here in the center. From this point, you would just continue rotating your work and working around and around and around. I hope you enjoyed learning how to do the Turkish cast on. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel, The Chili Dog, on YouTube. Until we stitch again, happy knitting!